Hello everyone, I'm Randy Arrington and welcome to the 55th episode of Page Valley Livin. We're here today in the Shenandoah Town Hall to talk with Shenandoah Mayor Clinton Lucas Jr. about what's been going on in the town over the past year and what may be coming up in 2025. This is the third in our series of 3 interviews with the mayors in Page County. We started off with Stephanie Lillard 2 weeks ago, and last week we talked to Stanley Mayor Michael Knight. And as I said, this week we're in the town of Shenandoah talking with Clinton Lucas Jr. We're going to talk to him about a whole lot that's happened and maybe some things yet to come in just a moment. But first, let's hear a word from our sponsor. Hawksbill Assisted Living in Luray is now accepting new admissions. Hawksbill Assisted Living, powered by Valley Care Management, offers quality care at affordable rates, professionally trained staff, and veterans aid and attendance. Come visit Hawksbill Assisted Living, located near the beautiful Hawksbill Greenway in Luray. Call for a tour today or learn more at valleycaremanagement.com. Episode 55 of Page Valley Living is being recorded on Monday, January 27th, and will first air on our YouTube channel and on our website, pagevalleynews.com, on Wednesday, January the 29th. Well, Mayor Lucas, thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate you taking time out to talk to us.
You're welcome, Randy.
All right. We're going to start off talking about some things that happened in 2024 over the past 12 months. And if you had to name 1 or 2, maybe even 3 projects or accomplishments, maybe things that either the town got started or a project they completed or something, what are you most proud of to look back and say, I'm glad we got that done?
Well, for many years we've been needing upgrades in our infrastructure, and in 2024 we were able to get some of that started. We dealt with the engineers, got the project laid out and ready for construction, and then bid it out to a contractor, and we feel like we got some of the major areas corrected during the year.
That's one of those things that you're just constantly chasing, and not just Shenandoah, but every small town that, many of these small towns has infrastructure that's 70, 80 years old or more, and it seems like it's a constant thing that you're chasing.
Well, we may have waited too late. I mean, we do have water lines and sewer that's getting on up there with a lot of age on them, and we kind of just try to keep up with things as they go bad. Mm-hmm. But maybe we should have been a little more aggressive and sought out areas where we could have made some improvements before they actually got as bad as what they were.
Well, that brings up one thing I wanted to talk with you about. The federal ARPA funds that came through, a lot of that used for infrastructure improvements. Was the town of Shenandoah able to gain some ground with that federal money?
Absolutely. That was one of the biggest things that keyed being able to get started. With budget, we try to keep everything as close as we can as far as trying to operate in a manner where we don't have to impose large tax increases. Mm-hmm. And the federal money just sort of came in at the right time. And we did use most of it for infrastructure improvements.
Just out of curiosity, I mean, was more of it done in water or sewer or parks, or was it any particular thing that you
Yeah, sewer.
Mostly in sewer.
Yeah, our biggest problems were in sewer. Our water lines are pretty much, problems with those are pretty much ongoing, that we pretty much have to make a repair almost daily.
Wow.
But
okay.
we can keep up with that with our own Public Works Department, mm-hmm. and don't have to worry about making it a contract job and hiring it out.
Well, beyond infrastructure and what you were able to do with ARPA, is there 1 or 2 other things that you could point to that you felt good about, the town did or accomplished or got done in the past year?
Yeah, a couple years ago, a contractor that had started a well for us several years ago approached us and told us that he thought there was still potential for that well if we would be interested in setting back up over it and allowing him to drill further. And we got that going last year and got a productive well out of it.
So that increases the town's water capacity.
Right. We haven't put it online yet.
Okay.
We have invoices in the packet for tomorrow night's meeting where Trumbo Electric has submitted a bid for actually hooking up the well, and we are very close then to putting it in service.
So I know you may not know the exact figure, but does that double the town's water capacity or add 10% or 20%?
Well, it's pretty much just going to be a reserve. A
Oh,
backup.
okay.
Yeah, we feel like that what we've got online now is doing the job, but for several years we were allowing water haulers to purchase water from us.
Okay.
And it was creating a great revenue source for us.
Right.
And with the drought that has been going on here in the valley for the last year or so, we had to stop that. Mm-hmm. And we've actually got water haulers pretty much begging to be allowed to come back and purchase water from us, because with a couple of those guys, it cuts down on a whole lot of transportation to the next nearest source of water for them to purchase.
Right.
So they're wanting us to maybe get in a position where we can start selling water to them again. And I don't know how the council feels. I know we don't want to short our own residents, but if we could maybe ease that new well into the system and see if that allows us to maintain enough water that we know our residents are going to have what they need, and we're still going to have the surplus there to sell to the contractors, well then I would like to see that happen.
Of course, here in Virginia, we don't have the same kind of problems they have out west, like they've had in California and different places with water. But at the same time, water is going to be a very valuable commodity, I think, over the next 10, 20, 50 years. I don't care where you live. I think water is going to become a more and more of a valuable commodity. And according to our local weather tracker, Carl Quintrell, the Page Valley is about 15 inches over the last 2 years, 15 inches under the average in rainfall. Yep. So it's going to become a very, very valuable thing.
And after the volume of our wells, our storage tanks and all wells and all went down, we have not been able to recover to a point where we thought that there was enough there to start actually selling any water outside the town.
But you feel very comfortable now that you still have a supply that can satisfy the town needs.
Absolutely.
Very good, very good. I know one thing that you all looked at, you had some special meetings. I don't know what kind of participation you had from the community, but one of the things you were going through was updating the town code. Is that correct?
Yeah, we pretty much went through that from front to back and looked at everything that we felt like, because it was, I guess you'd say, almost antiquated. Right. I mean, it had been there since probably the origination of the town.
Okay.
And there was so much in there that just did not apply to what things that go on today.
They still didn't have penalties for not cleaning up your horse manure or anything like that.
Well, I don't know about that, but there was some absurd things in there.
Was there any particular thing that you call in terms of a major change in the town code or anything?
No, nothing major.
Okay,
Just a matter of going through the whole thing and doing an overhaul.
How about, were there any big improvements at the parks or anything like that, or in terms of town events or anything like that?
Town events, I don't think so. The Memorial Day Festival is about the only thing that we do annually, and that went along just like normal, I think.
Good. Yeah. Very good. Very good.
Yeah, we had our memorial service for the veterans at the VFW, and then our street parade later in the afternoon.
Before we close out this section, anything else that comes to mind, whether it be small or big or whatever, any other things from the past year?
No, I do think the museum is growing. It's getting more popularity, and more people are finding out about it and know that we do have a history as a railroad town, and that there are railroad artifacts and everything there, and that's drawing more people to it. So,
well, I tell you, it was a great crowd. Recently, I went to the one they had about Shenandoah National Park and the displaced families that were moved off the mountain. That was a great program. 66 people came to that event, and I talked to Laura after the program, and she said that you've had some there that drew over 70 people, and I mean standing room only in there in the museum, and I think that is wonderful. I think that museum is probably one of the the best things that Shenandoah has added in recent years.
I think I would agree, yep.
All right. All right, folks, we took a look back at the last year, and when we come back, we'll be looking ahead to see what may be in store for us in 2025 in the town of Shenandoah. We'll be back in just a moment after a word from our sponsor. Whispering Pines Assisted Living is now accepting new admissions. Quality care at affordable rates, professionally trained staff, memory support, and short-term respite stays are all offered by Whispering Pines Assisted Living, powered by Valley Care Management, where home and heart meet. Call for a tour today on Leakesville Road in Luray or learn more at valleycaremanagement.com. Well, we just took a few minutes to look back at 2024. Now let's look ahead at 2025 and upcoming or ongoing projects in the town of Shenandoah. As we said at the beginning, we're here with Mayor Clinton Lucas Jr., longtime mayor. And so, Mayor, what's on tap for 2025? What can we look forward to in Shenandoah?
Well, I'd like to say a whole lot, but I don't think so. I think we're going to probably continue with infrastructure improvements as long as the money lasts, and that is the final dollars that are left in the ARPA budget.
Okay.
And definitely we're going to be putting the new well on in service. And
that's probably the big one, right?
That is because I think more people are concerned with water than anything else, and they don't like restrictions on water. Even if we're involved in a drought, they don't want to be told they can't wash their car or they can't water their flowers or their vegetable gardens or whatever. So, water is definitely the big issue.
Going back to sewer just for a moment, you talked about how that was such an ongoing battle. I mean, what would it take, or if you could wave a magic wand, is there any way that you ever foresee the town maybe getting ahead of that problem in any way, or is it going to be something that it is so costly that you're always going to kind of be playing catch up?
Well, probably catch up.
Yeah.
Because the whole system was pretty much installed at one time, and it was installed with material that was probably up-to-date material for that era. But it was terracotta pipe, which means clay.
Yeah, the old clay pipe.
And with being in the ground 75 years, it goes back to the ground, sort of.
Right.
So if anything happens that causes the earth to move or any disturbance whatsoever, that line breaks. And then you've got a problem. So you got that potential. You've got tree roots growing into the system that causes the pipe to disintegrate.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of a day-to-day basis, really. You might go for a week and not have a sewer problem, but then you may come in on a Monday morning and find out you've had 2 or 3 stoppages during the weekend, and Public Works has had to come out and check out the problem. And if you're lucky, you can replace a section. If you're worst case scenario, you're going to have to go long distances in order to correct the problem.
Well, I'm trying to remember whether it was Shenandoah or whether it was Stanley or Luray, but I remember one of them talking about going back and trying to repair an old pipe, and they found a wooden pipe. You remember any old wooden pipes?
I don't recall that being us, but it's I've seen wooden pipe. Was working inside the Merck plant. I know that they did have them there at one time. So, yeah, I know that there probably were wooden pipes existing, yeah.
Well, the town of Shenandoah is in good company because I think that is a struggle that every small town, probably in America, is struggling with, is to keep up with infrastructure and aging infrastructure and lines. So anything else, we came down and visited the other day, and I was looking down First Street. Is there any talk of any kind of revitalization plan or attempt to fill some of these empty lots where we unfortunately had some tragic fires years ago? I think one of those was the old hotel that burned down that was historic. Is there any inkling of the private sector may come in to be interested in any of that land? Or
I don't think so. I mean, we're wide open to talk to anybody about anything that they may want. The town even owns a couple lots of their own here on First Street that we would like to be able to put into some positive usage. But
Well, if there's a prospective buyer or a prospective entrepreneur out there, what kind of incentives could the town offer to get some development and new business in there?
well, all I can say as the mayor is that we would be open.
Yeah.
I can't speak for the council, but I know enough about the council to know that if anything came down the pike at all, that we would be welcome to talk to the people, willing to talk to the people and see if there was anything we could do to make it happen.
Yeah. The loss of the Boxcar Cafe was a sad day. I like that little restaurant and that little store. Is there any talk of somebody coming in there and maybe picking up the reins? Or
Well, at one time, I thought they had a potential buyer, and the transaction may have taken place. I haven't talked to Brenda to see for sure where that stands. But
so there might be some potential.
It could be some potential there yet.
Well, that's good news.
And I just looked at it as I pulled up for this meeting. They are two of the best looking buildings along the street.
Yes, yes.
They've been kept up and painted and everything. And they are two good looking buildings if someone was looking for a place to start a business.
Well, just so you know, we're looking out for you and we're trying to help. I had a friend of mine who lives in Shenandoah who is a chef, has worked in many, many restaurants and some high-end restaurants in D.C. and other places. And I was trying to get him to go in there and talk to him about buying it. I don't believe he's the one involved in what you're talking about, but we were trying. We were encouraging people to come in here and invest.
Being a chef, could he revert back to a country cooking type of
Well,
person?
sure, of course. Absolutely, absolutely. So is there anything else, Mayor, in terms of ongoing projects? Like you said, you're going to continue to use the last of these ARPA funds, which I believe already have to have been earmarked.
They are. They were, as of December the 31st, they had to be earmarked,
Right.
and now we have another almost 2 years, I think.
Well, I thought it was September you had to spend the money by September. Am I wrong?
I think it's 26, so
Okay, that may be right. That may be
I
right.
think we got that much
The federal
leeway.
stuff, it changes,
Yeah, I
it
think we
moves
got a little
around.
more leeway than 6 months or so.
Good. Very good. That's very good. Very good. Anything else that you want to add in terms of things that may be coming up in the upcoming year? Anything at all that you can think of it you want to throw out there?
Well, I would like to see positive input from the citizens.
Okay.
We, the council, six council people and myself, we don't have any idea what the people want unless they come to us and let us know. So they may come and we may not be able to satisfy what they want, but at least we would have an objective as to what to work toward.
Right.
And that helps us plan when we're doing budget. And it would just be beneficial to myself and the council to have a citizenry that would be coming in and saying, hey, we would like to see if we can do this in this particular area.
Well, Mayor, I want to thank you for a wonderful segue into our last topic that we want to talk about. And just so everyone knows, I warned the mayor this was coming, but I felt like, not to pick on him or the town of Shenandoah, but I felt like it was something that we had heard about and it played a part in the election. And I wanted to address it today so you could kind of, I guess, tell your side of the story and tell us a little bit about what happened. So there had been a couple of meetings over the past year where some folks were complaining about comments made by members of the council, yourself included. And, I'm wondering here now, what in the world were they complaining about? Because you're a mild-mannered person. What in the world were they complaining about to get you riled up?
Well, it was a situation with the water bill. The council restructured the way that we were going to charge for water usage, and it just didn't sit well with the citizens because a lot of them felt like that it put pressure on the elderly. Mm-hmm. So also with restructuring, we forgot to put it in with the budget that we posted for approval. So we had to have a special meeting to get that included in with the budget for the year. And the meeting drew a packed house crowd. Mm-hmm. And from the mayor's standpoint, I have never ran my meetings strictly by the Robert's Rules of Order.
Okay.
I've allowed people to talk during the meeting when I shouldn't have. And with the disturbances that we were having, the town manager looked into the Robert's Rules of Order, and we found, excuse me, and we found out that was nobody supposed to be talking but us. The audience was supposed to be listening until a designated time on the agenda. And like I say, I was allowing that to happen, and things just gradually got out of order. So we drew up the guidelines on how things were supposed to be done, how a meeting was supposed to be ran, and the guidelines didn't sit well with a lot of people because the guidelines stated that there was nobody to be talking but us. And they had people that wanted to make comments, and as I said, I allowed it to happen without them being recognized by the chair. And I had this one lady that said something about making reference to a neighboring town, that they did this way and they did this different than Shenandoah, and it just kind of didn't sit exactly right with me. And I said, well, if you feel they're so much better, you should move. That was my comment. That was, I think, the major comment that got the citizens of the town upset over the way I handled that one particular meeting.
Well, let me say this. You're allowed to be human, too, and be mayor at the same time.
Right.
But let me ask you this. If the same situation happened again today, would you handle it the same way?
No, I wouldn't. I don't think I would allow it to get to me. And going with the change that we think we have made, where we tell them that they cannot talk until the designated time that the agenda allows, I think we've already corrected the problem, or at least I hope we have.
Well, let me ask one additional question. Obviously, there was the meeting where, and I hadn't heard this part of the story until today, there was an individual in the crowd who got a phone call and took that phone call and was talking on that phone call during the meeting. And I believe Vice Mayor Kite took a little offense to that and directed them to, we'll say, be quiet in maybe a more direct manner. As mayor and as the person who conducts the meeting, how might you handle that differently in the future?
Well, I probably should have said, Mr. Kite, let me take care of this. But it just all happened so fast that I just didn't have a way to react to it. And that again got people in more of an uproar. And with the upcoming election, I think people started looking for a candidate that would run against me, even though at that particular time I was to be running unopposed because no one else had filed for the position. So they found a person, happened to be one of my council members, and got him to the point where he was willing to accept the challenge and be a candidate for election for the office of mayor.
Well, like I said, you're allowed to be human and be the mayor at the same time. And I think for a lot of people, as long as the lesson isn't learned, as long as the lesson isn't lost, and maybe things are handled differently in the future, that's something that will pass us on by. Did it in any way affect your decision, maybe say 2 years from now, to run again?
Well, I have already considered what's going to happen in 2 years, and I will be beyond 78 years old. And I'm using that as the main reason why I don't plan at this time to run.
Okay. So you're not planning to run again in 26?
Right.
Okay.
I may change my mind if my health stays good and I feel like there's still something here that I can add to what needs to be done for the town. My mind may change.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, 1992?
1990.
1990 was your first.
34 and a half years as of December 31st.
I had 36 in my mind for some reason, but I was close. That is a long time.
It's the longest sitting term for a mayor in the state of Virginia.
I thought that was the case, and that's been verified.
Yep.
Well, that's outstanding. And, that kind of institutional knowledge you can't teach, you can't study it. If you have to be there. And well, one last question before we walk away. 36 and a half years,
34,
and you're 34 and a half years. I did it again. and you say this may or may not be your last term. What is the biggest change that you have seen in the town of Shenandoah since you started?
The harmony on the council.
Interesting.
When I first took over as mayor, we had a political driven town council.
Okay.
I had about 4 Democrats
Okay.
out of the 6.
Okay.
So I had council members conducting their meeting before we even came into the council chambers. And I can honestly say that now, any subject that comes up, this council works it out among the 6 council members. And if we have any differences on the title, on the thing that's at hand, when it comes up, they are all settled and everybody's in harmony and agreement when we leave.
Well, you know, and I'm not trying to point fingers at one side or the other, but this is something that did happen. The Republican Committee of Page County has proposed in recent years, more than once, I think they did it once and then came back to try to propose it again, that they wanted things like school board, open it up to where school board offices, town council offices could be run under a partisan ticket, that you could claim a party. Now that is not the case. You don't run under a party. How do you feel about that? Should it be partisan? Should it not?
Well, the way I feel about it, if I'm sitting here in this mayor's chair and a person walks in that door, I don't care whether he's Republican, Democrat, or whatever other. His problem becomes my problem.
Right.
And I have to represent everybody equally. And I can't say, well, no, I'm a Republican, you're a Democrat,
Right.
work it out the best way you can.
So at the local level, we're all independents.
I don't want to see no political involvement in local government.
I love it. I love it. I agree with you 110%. Well, folks, we've talked about last year, the year coming up. We've heard a lot about what's coming in the town of Shenandoah and what's been going on. And Mayor Lucas, once again, I want to thank you very much for your time today. I know you don't like these interviews, so I really appreciate you doing it for us.
Hadn't been too bad.
Good. All right. Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, folks, that's it for the 55th episode of Page Valley Livin'. As always, we want to thank Eleanor Arrington for her work behind the camera today and in the editing room this week. And as always, we want to remind you to go down to the Page County Animal Shelter and help all of our furry friends find a forever home. Until next week, I'm Randy Arrington saying, enjoy that Page Valley Livin'.